other acts. They are part of the RICO conspiracy, and proof of charged overt acts requires no 404B justification. So, long story short, Big U is charged with assaulting Wack 100. It says it right here in the paper.
Big U is charged with assaulting Wack 100. I didn't make it up. But when I said it, niggas wanted to take shots at my character. Niggas drug my name through the mud to hide.
I don't see how he's actually charged. Like, what is an overt act? I love Soul I Did You. Thank you for becoming a member. All right, here's your chance. Here's your chance. What how is he being charged?
An overt act is when the government, in this situation with Big U, an overt act is when the government knows that you've done something, but they've yet to charge you. They let you know that they know you did it. That's what an overt act is in layman's terms.
Okay.
The situation that he had with Wack was do you remember when you guys had that episode with you, Trap Lord Ross, Remo, Wack, Academics, blah, blah, blah?
Yeah, and he got mad at Ross for bringing up the situation with Big U, yeah.
And then he said that he admitted to being in the parking lot with Big U, and he said that they tried to get on him. He said he started letting off in threes. You remember all that, right?
Yep.
So when Wack made that statement was used as an overt act. There's no proof that it happened, but because Wack had mentioned that it was a part of an ongoing investigation and it's a harm against Big U's character, that was charged as an overt act. When Big U's lawyer in the paperwork says, well, you can't use the word as an informant against my client, the federal government said, well, since you're right, we can't do that. But what we can do now is take this overt act and make it an actual charge of assault.
Okay, but they're not like actually charging it?
No, it's the actual charge. It's the actual charge. So it started off as an overt act, and when Big U's lawyer tried to argue that you cannot charge him with an overt act because it's nothing that he's being charged with, the federal government countered with a charge.
But so...
And the charge is assault on Wack.
But they don't have any evidence?
Sheesh, that boy Rich Trapper coming in on fire. That boy spitting.
Aside from Wack describing it on a podcast, that's what you're saying?
That's what the current evidence is.
But they don't even have...
Now, do they have something else? I don't know, but that's what's been made public.
Okay, but I feel like you're trying to like use this to draw the conclusion that Wack talked and cooperated when in reality he just talked about it on the podcast, right?
So with that for the best example, no, he did not sit and talk to a police officer in an interrogation room. However, neither did Loose Cannon, and Loose Cannon's statements from a podcast are being used against him in the same federal documents.
Okay.
So we can determine just based off common sense that you don't necessarily have to sit in the office of the courts or a police officer for your statements to be used against you, i.e. Loose Cannon.
Damn.
But then you'll also take into the current situation where Big U's being charged with the situation against Future. Only Wack has come out and said any story about this. We haven't heard any story about it from anybody but him. And in his story, he admits to, without being provoked or coerced by Big U, under his own gumption, he decides to chase Future, his words, chase Future through the airport because he owes Tricks some money, allegedly. Now, these are Wack's words. This is also an overt act because there's no actual proof of it, but throughout the statements in the documents and the podcast, you're able to see that the government is taking interest, hence the overt act. Now we're waiting to see if this overt act will be turned into an actual charge like the assault was turned into an actual charge. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Damn, Rich Trapper coming in with the floof. Man. This is crazy.
That makes sense.
So you can look at the link that I sent. The first clip that I sent you is where Wack is implementing Birdman because he said, these are his words, quote, Future threw me the phone and it was Stunner on the phone, and Stunner says, hey, leave him alone, nephew. I have business with him. Now we have a witness of Birdman knowing that Future was chased through the airport by Wack because according to Wack, Birdman paid the debt that was owed to Trick. That's the first clip that I sent you. The second clip is Wack telling the story. There are two separate incidents. One is allegedly when Future was accosted in a club in LA. I don't know anything about that. That's just what they're saying. But that's where the alleged physical altercation happens. The second incident is in the airport where there's no physical altercation, but according to Wack in his words, he was able to get the payment sent to Trick by way of Birdman after chasing Future through a federal airport.
Yeah, him saying all that is definitely something. Now that we know that the feds care about it, you know, I can see why he thought that they wouldn't, but it definitely, it looks a little tricky now.
So if we're being non-biased and, you know, treating your platform with the respect of your platform, I'll save my slander and I'll save my bias for my page.
Okay.
On your page,
I like how Rich Trapper said, I'll save my slander and my bias from my page. So he's not coming on here to bully Wack. He's not coming up here to make Wack, you know, look like a liar or anything like that.
the actual facts are Wack's own testimonies. So for everybody saying, hey, he never talked to the police, that's 100% true. But the example that we can give for the exact same case is neither did Loose Cannon, and we watch what happened to him. So we can all agree that you don't necessarily have to talk to the police for the police to be able to use your words against you or someone else.
All right.
Would you agree or would you disagree?
I mean, at this time, unless we could figure out like another way that the cops or that the feds could know about this, then it does appear. But I mean, an overt act. All right. An overt act is a real observable action taken by a person that helps carry out a shared criminal plan or conspiracy. It provides the plan that it proves the plan is active rather than just a thought in someone's head. Completely legal action on its own, like renting a car, making a phone call, or buying a tool. Okay. So
we have the example of Big U says in the documents, I want to break Wack 100's jaw. They have him charged with an overt act of wanting to assault Wack 100. Big U's lawyer says, well, hey, he might want to do this to, and this is not my words, Big U's lawyer referred to Wack as an informant. So that's his word in a federal document, not mine. But when Big U's lawyer refers to Wack as an informant, it says, like, you can't charge my client with wanting to hurt, you know, an informant. He hasn't done anything. Can you now understand why the government counters with, okay, you're right. We can't charge him with what he wanted to do, but we can actually give him this charge so he can fight it in the meantime. So again, because I know the semantics of what you're going to have to deal with next Thursday, I'm going to reiterate. No, Wack did not give a statement, so to speak, to a law enforcement. It's called open source reporting, which is how Loose Cannon got caught up with his indictment, and his words are being used against Big U. Same open source reporting is where Big U was able to be charged from an overt act to an actual assault, and now we're just waiting to see if this same open source reporting will fall 3 times in a row with this situation in Future. And the only thing that makes this one with Future a little bit more interesting is we do have an actual confession from Wack.
right.
Sheesh. Golly, this is tricky.
So, you know, I might be, you know, a bitch ass nigga and all this fuck with Trapper, blah, blah, that's cool. But the facts are the facts.
So I got to ask him about the Future testimony and then the Big U parking lot story. And we got to figure out what his explanation is for how those could be named as overt acts. Because now I'm realizing that on the Wack podcast that is coming out Sunday that I didn't like understand all this shit that was being explained here. But so now he basically has to either accept that his words are the reason for these overt acts being mentioned in federal paperwork, or he has to explain how actually his words being used as overt acts in the federal paperwork.
That's pretty much it. And who would have thought that you guys would see the day where Adam22 is enlisting Rich Trapper to get the situation with Wack 100 taken care of, man? That is barnacles.
Is fine and not a big deal.
Can I ask you for a favor?
Sure.
When you're speaking to him about this, don't let that man dance in a circle. You know what I'm talking about. As us being the fans, as us being your loyal fans, Adam.
Right.
Come on, man. I'm a whole no jumper reaction channel. Don't play with us, bro. Make him get to the content. Because when it came time for Munchie B to have his statements used about him, Wack spared no expense.
True.
And I'll also say this. Yes, Munchie B, in the misstatement about knowing who unalived someone and passing a bottle to him,
Right.
I would still say Wack's situation is worse because Munchie B says he knows who did it. Wack said he actually did it. 2 different things. So I would say that Wack might be fucked a little bit more than Munchie B.
Wait, you're saying that Wack said that he did what?
Wack admitted to chasing Future through the federal airport. Mushy B said he passed a
This is an ugly Mickey, Icky, Vicky, tricky, sticky situation, man. That boy Wack is losing it. He is losing it.
to somebody who he knows who did it. That's bad. But what's worse is actually being the person to chase somebody through a federal airport.
Okay.
And then it kind of makes you wonder. If you look at the story again, I'll let you go after this. But you hear the story, I sent you the clip. Wack says that he chased Future where the conveyor belts was. That's TSA. You travel often. How the fuck are you chasing somebody through TSA without federal agents, police officers, and or TSA stopping you?
I don't know. He's silky smooth.
So I'll leave you with this cliffhanger. Wack made a mention of the Four Seasons in Atlanta. Word on the curb is Wack ain't never even been to Four Seasons, and he might have loose cannon himself by involving himself in a situation that he wasn't even actually there for and might be a part of an indictment in a RICO based off a full-blown lie.
What? But what happened at the Four Seasons in Atlanta?
In the Four Seasons of Atlanta, Wack will say that that's the same trip where he said that he was at Delta on a red eye because he and Big U allegedly were going to Atlanta because, according to Wack, Big U wanted to put him onto a blood hood outside of Four Seasons. Everybody knows that I spent this extensive time in Atlanta. There is no blood hood around Four Seasons. The distance, to give you a reference, would be from South Central to Gardena. That would be the closest blood hood. So Wack's lying about that. But Wack mentioned that he was with Big U in the Four Seasons around the same time the situation happened with Future. And I got a pretty reliable source that says Wack has never been to the Four Seasons at all. So the situation with Future is a story he might be inserting himself into that he actually wasn't there for, but the charges against him are very real.
All right, I'm going to ask him about all this right now. Thank you. Appreciate it. Rich Trapper. All right.
Sheesh. And that's Rich Trapper calling in, man. Whoa. Adam22 is trying to get to the bottom of this. We up out of here, though, man. Red dots to the left. You know the rest. Say a prayer and be blessed. We gone.